I'm sure you can tell the excitement in the crypto space is brewing. I'm sure you can feel it, whether it's the United States and different states within the country suing the SEC and talking about building their own Bitcoin strategic reserves, or the fact that we're sniffing near 100K before the fourth quarter is even over. Yes, there might be pullbacks. Yes, your alts maybe not as moving quite as much, but there are some alts that are. And we're going to talk about one of them, why they're moving so much, with the guy that was on here last time telling you how to identify bullish meme coins in the space. Check that video out if you haven't. But we are back with the one and only George from Uptrade. George, how's it going, man?
Amazing, amazing. So, yeah, nice to speak again, Summer. It's always a pleasure to get on these calls with you and give some amazing value to the community and the viewers. For those who don't know or hadn't seen the previous video, I'm one of the senior brokers at Uptrade. We're a specialist crypto brokerage operating in Australia. I'm also an official ambassador of Casper, top 30 project. So, yeah, really excited to speak with Summer today about some of the top trends we've seen. And for those that don't know, we got this exciting crypto conference in Australia over the weekend. It's a huge conference here down under. It gets neglected a bit overseas, but we're really looking forward to being there and meeting all the key figureheads.
Yeah, Uptrade is heavily infused in the crypto space from the research perspective to obviously attending all the different events and just being very tapped in to how the space is moving. You know, the research that they do, I love at sharing my research as well. They share their research with me, and it's very beautifully synchronized in the sense of what they do from a fundamental perspective and how we're both looking at macro analysis. And we're both of the viewpoint that the bull run is definitely continuing. And so we have George back to talk about one meme coin in particular that's been kind of outperforming the rest. And part of this outperformance, you guys may or may not know, has to do with the nature of how bull runs work. You may or may not have heard of the term Bitcoin dominance, which has returned to a level it hasn't been in about 3 years, which is interesting for many reasons. One in particular, this is near the low point, and it's possible we'll see another low likely, which mirrors where we were at 3 years ago in December, coincidentally, where there is one more low before the alts start to catch up with Bitcoin. So you're watching at a great time. And the fact that we're talking about a meme coin in particular that has been outperforming the others when all the other alts hasn't been doing so well kind of gives us a hint that this may be one of the outperformers as the bull run continues. And that meme coin is, I'll leave that to you, George. Why don't you tell us what it is? They've done deep research. Again, Uptrade is one of the best that I've seen at this and why I love working with them. So, George, what do you got for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the last video we made, some of the key meme coin was PopCat. So we discussed that about 3 or 4 months ago, and alas, if you sort of backdate that video when we started talking about it, and we said a lot about the cat meta in crypto. I mean, that has, if you look at the level, the amount of, I guess, market capitalization in the dogs as a category, it's about 10 times larger than cats. So we kind of picked up that that was a major discrepancy between the two. And alas, PopCat had quite a strong run from, I think it was 50 cents US to a dollar. I mean, a high of $2, which is 4 times gain from that point. And that was a really, really strong early trend we identified. But today, I think the really, really what we're going to talk about, I believe, is the success of SUI in the most recent terms. It's a key layer one blockchain getting a lot of attention across the crypto sphere and even from retail investors alike, and some institutional interest, or I guess investors like Raoul Pal getting involved, a really renowned name. And so I guess the beauty of SUI is the innovation of its programming language. It uses a different language to what we're traditionally used to. It was built by the ex-head of Facebook's Libra project, who at the time was working on Libra. That he went away and built SUI from the ground up. It uses what we call Move. It's a more user-friendly, developer-friendly language that is what we want is a lot of developers to get attracted to that and start building on the network. So what we've seen is a lot of new decentralized applications being built on Sui that is now emerging for the first time. We have liquidity providers, we've got decentralized exchanges, of course, meme coins. You can't neglect the meme coin category that's emerging on Sui. So yeah, that's what we want to talk about today in a lot more detail. And yeah, I guess Sama, have you noticed yourself seeing a lot of interest in Sui pickup, maybe in the in the crypto sphere?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's been, again, one of the first movers that we've seen. And it's always interesting because every cycle, you and I have seen several of them now. There tends to be these layer ones that are challenges either to Ethereum or to Bitcoin. And sometimes some have some promise, other times they tend to fade away each cycle. But what's different about this one, like you're saying, is who's behind it. And the fact that the apps are already starting to develop, it's really exciting to see how much that's picked up. The other thing, like you even mentioned, even with the cat meme compared to the dog meme, is again the size of market capitalization. And this is something we talked about the last time we were on, when you guys are out there looking for opportunities, is if you have an inkling that a narrative is going to catch on and you see that the total market cap, the total volume of whatever project or sector that is small in comparison to other ones that have taken off, that mathematically gives you a hint that there's more runway to go. And when we look at Sui compared to other layer ones, it's very appealing. And I'm sure you're going to dive into a lot more of that once you share your screen and get into the really in-depth, incredible research that you guys do at Uptrade.
Absolutely. And a key trend that we picked up is potentially the absorption of total value locked or liquidity or money being absorbed from Solana and potentially Ethereum into the Sui ecosystem. We saw about 2 or 3 months ago, a lot of that stablecoin liquidity was flowing in. And that's a really healthy sign that some people may be wanting to speculate on the battle of the titans, the key layer ones in the industry. You got Ethereum, you got Solana, you got now Sui, you got even Casper, which is an organic proof of work community-based project. So there's a few key emerging layer ones, and we're really trying to see out of these who becomes the titan of this cycle. Now, there's no debating that a lot of retail investors are buying Sui at the moment because we have clients, of course, that I get phone calls all the time saying, "Hey, can I buy X? Can I buy Y? Let's get it done." And a lot of the times it is Sui that they're talking about or wanting to ask questions of. So I think that's a natural segue into what I'm going to show you is a screen share of some of the data and deep dives we've done on the Sui ecosystem. And this is part of our research and our analyst team that build this out. They're extremely knowledgeable in the space. They've come from, our head analyst came from an institutional asset manager called Apollo Crypto. They're a specialist hedge fund in Australia. They manage high net worth client portfolios. So the research we do is really, really powerful, and it just helps our clients to make better informed decisions. Gives them the data they need. They just need a slight edge. All you need in crypto is a slight edge. You don't need to have all the alpha in the world. Just a little bit is enough because it's a lot of retail money pours into this space, as we've seen in prior cycles with bullish trajectories. So hopefully this can change someone's trajectory on this call. And I'm going to share my screen and go through that in a moment. What you see here is what we discussed earlier. Sui ecosystem is a next generation layer one blockchain built on the Move programming language. And that's important. That's what differentiates itself from any of the other types of Solana and Casper. Casper uses Rust. Solana uses other programming languages. And so this is unique. That's the first thing to stand out. And I guess its parallel transaction processing makes it ideal for decentralized apps like gaming, DeFi solutions, and it also supports asset management smart contracts, which is really offering users and developers a highly flexible platform. So if you want to look at its performance, now, I think we all can open the chart and see it's up, it hit a peak of $2 from 50 cents from the local low, which is about a 4 times increase. So there's no denying the recent performance. And of course, recent performance is not an indicator of the future. And this is not financial advice, but we're just sort of talking about factual information here. And all this is indeed factual. It's all publicly available. We just put it on a platter for our clients. So since its mainnet launch in 2023, it's been a standout. It's powering transactions, gas fees, liquidity, and it's got about 26.8% of its 10 billion's total supply in circulation, and that's growing by 2.4% monthly. So that looks at the inflation of the tokens, which is something that we analyze quite deeply. Is how many token unlocks are there? What's the inflation schedule? So this high staking, it's got about 80% almost staked, leaving about 900 million tokens actively on chain. So if this
Quick question for you. Do you guys see the staking increasing or decreasing from here for the, let's
that's
say, for the forward?
It's a good question. It depends on the APR and also people's belief and trust in the security of the Sui ecosystem. Staking can have serious repercussions if the protocol gets hacked or something goes wrong. If they get hacked and their funds get stolen or unlocked, it just depends on the trust. It may increase if retail confidence increases and a lot more bigger names come on board. But that's something to keep in mind. So if this majority gets staked, 80% or higher, and there's locked in staking protocols, it could potentially cause supply shocks, where only 20% of the remaining supply is being traded. Right? If we only have 20% of the supply being traded and we have huge demand, well, then there's an imbalance potentially that may occur between supply and demand. So this is really important. The next point here, it's the TVL. That looks at total value locked. It's the amount of money locked in smart contracts facilitating the ecosystem. It's been on an exponential growth phase since July all the way to 2024, and then just continually rising. We had a big flush here. I think that's the liquidation event we had when Bitcoin dropped massively, about 10, 15% in a day. And then it's just been growing ever since. Now, that indicates healthy growth of the network, where a lot of TVL is flowing in. It could be from Solana, it could be from Ethereum. We don't know. It could be new money, but we're just speculating. So it reached $1 billion in 2020, in October 23. It makes it the eighth largest ecosystem in terms of TVL, and that shows growth and strong demand for liquidity within its decentralized apps, which we'll talk about later. So I think the main thing here is that with just only 40 protocols, and Solana has a lot more, Sui boasts 11 times fewer applications than other top 10 ecosystems. So that's quite a big difference between Solana versus Sui or Ethereum in terms of how many apps or decentralized applications it has. It's 11 times less. And that begs the question, does that mean there's 11 more times room to grow? And does that mean developers are going to continue to grow the ecosystem? So the TVL growth from 12 million to 1 billion is just unprecedented. That's some crazy growth
Crazy.
coming in. Yeah.
So what would you say to someone who says, well, hey, there's 11 times less applications. Is Sui too late to the game? Or to your point on the other side, does that mean that there is a lot more room to grow? What are you guys leaning towards in terms of your research? Obviously, we are in the midst of the bull market, but in terms of actually bringing developers on, what are you guys seeing in terms of that trend?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, it begs the question, right? Is if it has 11 times less decentralized applications than Solana, but it's not 11 times, I guess, smaller than Solana's market capitalization, we need to see, okay, will that allow for more room for growth? It's really hard to say what will happen next, but you need to look at it from a mathematical point of view and see, are there any discrepancies between market capitalization and TVL or apps? It's a bit of a balancing act, and it isn't a perfect science, but I think with the next few years, the analyst team will be able to pinpoint that.
I would like to call that out too for people who do their own research in crypto. That's an example of what we see from a technical analysis perspective in charts. It's something called divergence, right? And when we can see two things diverging, that's where you have an opportunity because price might catch up with something that's telling you as an indicator, hey, this is kind of out of balance. There's a lot more room for Sui to grow here, but the price or people's attention hasn't quite caught up to that yet. And you're hearing George say there's some more research they need to do as well. So these are ways to, again, you only need a little bit of alpha, you only need a little edge, like George said, to make some money. But in some cases, depending, I know some of you are very savvy, the more extreme ways you might want to go in terms of research, these are some of the ways to find gems, even, ahead of brokerages if you're so inclined. Please continue though.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look at that all the time. I look at just a little quick tip.
I've got George on here just to give you a little bit of more information in terms of more value that they can deliver to you guys and how you can get access to more of this types of research for any coin that you have interest in.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this has just been a really good snippet of some of the research we do. If you'd love to learn more, there's obviously going to be a link that someone will put up in the comment section as a pinned post. Feel free to reach out to me via email, have a conversation, see what may be a good fit for you. There's no obligations to do anything really, but if it is going to help you in your journey, and that's what we need, a slight edge, maybe I could be a part of it, and maybe I look forward to working together. So there's two parts to it. It's the brokerage model, which is kind of a hands-off approach. And then we have the Uptrade Alpha, which is more of your hands-on, really deep insights, really digging into the weeds. It is both optional. And yeah, look forward to seeing if there's a good opportunity to work together.
Absolutely. These guys are the best in class, no pressure. You'll know if you're a good fit for this, particularly if you've been in the space in a while and you want a hands-off approach. If you want someone who's going to be good and dedicated at managing those funds for you, I suggest you reach out. If you're more hands-on, check out the alpha. Either way, you've got value here, and it's a pleasure to have you guys on the channel. Thanks, George.
Thank you, Sama. Bye. So another success metric we look at is daily transactions. And you can clearly see these spike, and then a massive breakout to the upside in September in the number of daily transactions, which, again, that asks the question, is this going to contribute to more decentralized applications being built? Because there's more transactions happening within the ecosystem, more staking, more lending, more borrowing, more decentralized exchange use on, say, some of the top dApps, which we'll talk about later. So you can see here, it almost recorded 6 billion total, which is huge. And it achieved the fourth highest among all.
That wasn't necessarily the best month for altcoins either, September. So that's interesting.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely a key point there. If you look at all the altcoin performance in September and you see all of them declining, but Sui's growing, maybe, again, another divergence opportunity. So the network's daily transaction volume has fluctuated and it's reached significant spikes, which is what we're seeing here, 120 million transactions daily in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, we're in November now, so it's a bit outdated, but still quite relevant. Then we look at, I guess, supply tokenomics. This looks at really the unlock schedules, which will surpass 3 billion by December 2024. And we will look at all the unlocks for next year and see, are these venture capitalists that got early seed round investments, are they potentially going to sell or might sell if the unlocks happen? They have the option, right? They don't have to sell when the unlocks, they could just hold it. But we keep a very close eye on the emissions.
How much percent do VCs have in Sui? Do you know off the top of your head? Or is that in the doc?
I'm not sure off the top of the tokenomics. I need to look into that and get back to you. So it might be in this document somewhere, but there's so much research we could do. This could be we just continue to build out this document.
Yeah. It's easy to get lost in it all for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. So this is a key thing here in terms of the developers. And this is a really key metric. This is just gold on a platter right here. Developers, you don't have the developers, you don't have the network. You got to have people coding to build it, just common sense. But if you look at Sui, it has the higher number of weekly core active developers than other layer one blockchains. So Solana, Ethereum, etc. And it contributes to the flywheel effect. More developers, growing ecosystem, attracts more users, increases TVL, and it further encourages more developers to join the network. So we're seeing that here as newcomer developers are just actually spiked completely on the Sui ecosystem.
Nice.
So that's a really key thing here. You don't just have established, probably Ethereum or Solana developers. You got emerging and then new ones. Maybe because of the Move ecosystem, the language. Sorry, it's friendly, which attracts new developers.
Looks like Sui has a lot of potential, and a lot of applications. Very similar, in the sense of what has helped layer ones like Avalanche or Solana take off in terms of having opportunities for apps where you can access lending, borrowing, trading, centralized and decentralized exchanges, all the things that you want to see. And the fact that particularly, which is really good to see, the newcomers are joining the space, particularly again, as we are in the midst of a bull run, is a very important metric because more developers, as prices go up overall, will be attracted to the space. But the fact that it's not just retail buyers, but actually developers speaks to the underlying fundamentals of the actual layer one itself. And that I would say that's a very bullish metric under the hood that you're sharing with us to see. And
Yeah, look,
that's again why it's good to have George on here to talk about this and share this research because you will see the meme narrative taking off. We've talked about it earlier when Bitcoin wasn't as crazy, and now you're seeing a lot of channels probably talking about memes now. But again, it's important to remember that those are more sentiment based narratives, and in some cases, there was nothing under the project other than the community. Right. So this is looking at developers actually bringing applications for actual practical utility and use. And so this is really good that you're sharing this. Please continue.
yeah. So I guess, we look at the different, I mean, Scallop as an example is a money market. So it's going to facilitate lending, borrowing, and swapping services on the SUI ecosystem. Has about 157 million in TVL. Just a second, I accidentally got out of full screen. And we think that Scallop may be positioned to follow SUI's trajectory. And I guess, the TPS, transactions per second on SUI and popular blockchain, you can see that here. It's really small, but this is SUI here, which is surpassing Aptos, Solana, Cosmos, Phantom, Polygon, and all the other key ones. You got Ethereum here. This is the number of transactions per second. And so we're seeing a really key spike there. This is, I guess, as of the last couple of months. So I don't know what it looks like today, but still, that's something, not to take lightly, is that it's surpassing some of these key big household names, which we are all familiar with.
That's pretty remarkable. Yeah. I'd be interested to see an updated metric, but even that date there, I look like that was in May of this year. Is that correct? Like,
Yes, yes, correct, May.
so that's when alts were really actually doing quite well. So to see that in that outperformance back then it's interesting. We might see a repetition of that. Yeah, for it to be outpacing Solana that much is very interesting.
Yeah. So another key metric that we look at is the lending TVL, which looks at how much money has been either lent or borrowed on the Sui ecosystem for whatever applications. And this facilitates the entire DeFi ecosystem of yield earning, yield farming, staking, which we've seen with Solana in previous cycles, right? A key thing we haven't mentioned on this is Solana has also a thriving ecosystem. It's got Camino Finance, which is a lending and borrowing application. So maybe that's for another video, Sama. But I guess we can look at some of the two titans, do a key comparison between this layer one and others. So maybe stay tuned for the next video.
The layer ones, right? It's always a theme, right? At the most parabolic point of the cycle, so people are going to want to know. Is it do I go all in on ETH? Do I go with Solana? Or what about Sui? So definitely, we'll link up again when we have availability in our schedules and do a round two of that for sure. And you guys have a very interesting alpha channel too as well. I don't know if you want to briefly touch on that. Maybe we could share other articles another time, but just to give people a peek into what comes with that, so they can get more of this level of research while they're doing their investing and trading.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a group called Uptrade Alpha. The community's run on Patreon. It's where we have a lot of our clients who want some deeper insights and research in crypto, which is very hard to access. Coincidentally, it's currently free for 2 months, and then we're going to commercialize the model. So whoever is in and wants to get involved, feel free to reach out to me and ask for that information. If you're interested, it's not for everyone. If someone prefers a hands-off approach, then maybe a broker model might be potentially a good fit for you. Maybe I can just quickly share with you what that is, just to explain at a high level what we
Yeah.
cover off.
quickly mention, I'll put a link down to contact George if you are interested in a more hands-off model. And what that looks like is you basically have tax access to these these amazing investors and traders basically at the brokerage level who will have your funds held in the same places the banks hold your money. And you can basically say, hey, buy SUI or hey, sell SUI or how are things going. You can have that engaged conversation, similar like you can with me in a consultation. Obviously, they're not going to pull up an astrological chart, but you can see the level of research that they're doing. So if you're interested in having someone like that manage your portfolio, there'll be a link down below for you guys to contact George, as well as a free link to the Patreon as well. Yeah, man,
Yeah,
dive
look,
into.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's a big thing. Is trust is a huge thing in crypto, as we all know. We operate in the business of trust more than anything. But we use some of the gold standard of custody to secure our clients. I wouldn't be able to do my job without it. I just I wouldn't have that peace of mind. So take it from someone that has 8 years of experience doing this. It's a high caliber service. So this is a quick glance of what we're looking into. So you can see here some of our popular posts in the Uptrade Alpha Patreon community. We look at T1 listings, we look at meme coin trends, SUI ecosystem, which we touched on today, weekly updates, token reports, and then Bitcoin, of course, breaking all-time high. So we look at some key data, like this might be a little bit technical, but heat maps just looks at buy and sells in the order books across the key ones. We look at funding rates, that's in the futures market, looking at, maybe, I guess, rates funding rates positive. That means there's more longs that are paying shorts in the system, so that we're in a bullish potential trajectory. Open interest and a few other key metrics. But the whole idea here is, and this is from our head analyst Kane, who has recently done some crazy performance on a meme coin called Chill, just Chill Guy, just the Chill Guy. I won't go into detail there, but a phenomenal, phenomenal investor himself. Not only as an analyst, we looked at the tier one listing of Pepe on Robinhood and Coinbase, and we just dive really deep. And this is just the start of what we're doing this summer.
Sweet. Encourage you guys to join that while it's free. It is quality info. So grab it while you can. And thanks for joining us, George. We'll be back to talk about Solana. We'll compare it a little bit to Sweet, but we'll dive in a little bit more about what makes Solana special. Again, we are in the middle of a bull run and an ecosystem that has applications under it that allow activity to grow. Well, why wouldn't that be bullish, right? So we'll dive into what makes Solana special in that regard, just like we did with Sweet. Thanks again, George. Appreciate you sharing with us what you guys are, diving into at your level, and we'll do it again soon, man.
I really appreciate your time, Simon. This has been a really good video and looking forward to the next one. Thanks, everyone.